It's Keith Andrew. Along here is a good friend of mine, Ron Wasserman, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show once again.
I'm glad to be here. Hello, everyone.
Now, starting off, I just have an announcement to make for our listeners. People who want to know what uncensored is. Uncensored is my way to show people that even with a learning disability, I can still overcome controversy and obstacles that are in my way. And I can prove to people I can still amount to something. At the same time, turning myself into a perfect example for people out there deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair. That you should never label yourself, and you should prove to people you can still amount to something. And for most people who want to know if this is an official talk show or an unofficial talk show, as of right now, it's unofficial. But the reason I'm doing my interviews is trying to turn it into an official talk show. So the more people and the more support I get, hopefully, knock on wood, it'll turn into something. Now, with that being said, it's a normal conversation. We talked from our interview, and we talked by email. And you can ask me anything you want, and it's just a normal conversation. So starting off, what can you tell me about yourself?
Well, currently, my background is I started as a child composing music, and then played in lots of bands, and in the, paid all the dues, long, boring stories with that. And then around 1992, I had been working for a place called Saban Entertainment for a number of years, trying to break in as a composer, and they brought in an opening title sequence for a show called Power Rangers and said we need a theme for this. So I wrote this theme, Go Go Power Rangers, in about 2.5 hours, and then it took off, and that was kind of the beginning of my composing career, and I've been very busy ever since, luckily, knock on wood. So that continues to this day. I'm doing 4 sitcoms right now, one called Hot in Cleveland with Betty White, another one called The Soul Man with Cedric the Entertainer, one called Kirstie with Kirstie Alley, and then a Nickelodeon show called The Thundermans with, not huge name actors yet, but the show's doing incredibly well. And then I have a band with my wife called Fisher, and we've been signed, and we sell stuff, and you would know her voice, and so we are just completing another CD, and I write for a lot of the dance DJs, mainly stuff that she sings, so Paul Van Dyke and Armin van Buuren and all those guys. So each day is action-packed, which is why I always look tired.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Most of the time it's amazing fun, and then there's certain times like the list of notes I just got for Hot in Cleveland for stuff they need this afternoon, where it's going to be a lot of work to get it done.
Right,
so there's times the actual composing part's fun. It's setting up the templates. So here we have this particular orchestral sound, and now we want a sound from the 60s. Now we need a choir. So it's setting those things up. That is the boring part. That's where I wish I had the magic assistant standing by that would pop in and do that part of the work and then disappear.
Hey,
but no such person exists.
If you ever need an assistant, I'm not doing anything.
The biggest problem is I would go, cool, I'll be back in 30 minutes. I need a full choir set up. And you, having studied my 11,000 sample library, would know what to pull up. The problem is it would take more time to train somebody than for me to do it.
Yeah, I understand. Now, you mentioned, how did you get started in Power Rangers that you mentioned earlier?
Well, when I'd started at Saban, I went in part-time just to engineer for some of their composers. And it's a business I'd never even thought of. And I went, hey, this is a whole thing I should get into, because, I do with my wife, I'd love to have a record deal, but I've already been in signed bands. I'm already kind of tired of that, dealing with record companies, and it would be kind of cool to not deal with that, maybe, and go into television. So it took 3 years, and I just wrote and gave stuff to producers, and I said, be brutally honest with me. And they were brutally honest, and I started getting a feel for the difference between songwriting and scoring. It's a very different world.
Now, for people who don't know what kind of people know what songwriting is, but what is the difference between songwriting and scoring?
Well, scoring, there's no format to it. You're not going to start. I mean, you can write a groove. That's wonderful. That might be good for the first, 3 seconds. And you've got to pay attention to what's going on in the picture. You've got to never get in the way of what's going on with dialogue. There's a lot of stuff to consider. And what's the scene, and what are the frequencies in the scene? And is there a sound effect? Are you going to hit it, or is the sound effects guy going to hit it? And what pitch is he going to be at, which you rarely know. And it's just more complicated. Which is why people don't go, if there's a song from a movie, it can become a hit. But there's never been a score, a non-vocal score, that wasn't a song. The actual score, background score, that ever charted, or people go, oh my gosh, did you hear? It doesn't happen. The trick is to move the scene along while remaining invisible.
Alright, so like for an example, for people who are listening, like from Transformers, the movie, how they have that background music. It's not actually a song, it's just like a score.
Right. It adds the action factor. And if it's done correctly, you don't even know it's there. It's when you hear the music, when you really hear it. Now, it's different when they open up to a landscape of dinosaurs in Jurassic. What? Somebody breaking in?
I don't know if he saw that or anything. Something that came flying off the top shelf at me.
Oh, that's funny. So, you have something like that, you want the music featured. But there's an example of a brilliant composer where a lot of the times you don't even realize there's music going on. Not because it's mixed so low, but it's doing something to enhance the scene. And that's the hardest part. Staying out of the way, and yet getting what the producer or director wants emotionally out of that scene.
Not to say
really hard.
Not to jump to another subject or anything, but I don't know.
Please do. It's fine.
I don't know if the camera picked it up or if you saw it on your end. But, I almost got whacked in the head with this thing coming off top shelf.
Well, that's some sort of... It's a good thing he's small. Threaten to take him outside and melt him.
When I was younger, I always hated these things, because they're rubber and you can't really bend them. But I had this since '98. If you were in it to hear, it's really good. It's made solid, so it lasts a couple of years.
Well, we can thank China for that. They've come up with better, because there's no restrictions on using, chemicals, so they've been able to come up with better plastic toys for our kids to stick in their mouths.
Now, going back to the Power Rangers, were you friends? I know off the air we talked about this, but for our listeners who never heard the first interview, were you friends with any of the cast members? Did he ever...
No. Fact is, I went down to the set once. I asked if I could go because they were shooting. We were in Burbank and they were clear out Valencia, which is not terrible. It was about 25 miles, and I drove out there once and walked around the set, and nobody even acknowledged that I was there. They didn't know who I was. And then there was one time they all came into the studio in Burbank to talk amongst themselves because it was such a quiet room. and they didn't really care much about me. The only people I really hung out much with, not even hung out with, but had any conversations with, were Paul and Jason. They were great.
Now, for people who want to know who Paul and Jason, there's a bunch of them, but who do you mean by,
Bulk and Skull. Skull and Bulk. So very nice guys, and very humble guys. And then I worked with Amy Jo Johnson once on a recording session. She was supposed to record a song for some scene in the thing, and so I worked with her for about 30 minutes, and she was not having a great day. So we just got the work done, and it was thank you very much. That was the end.
I remember that episode where she was singing on stage for an episode. Was that the episode?
Yeah. So she came in to pre-record it, or maybe she ended up doing it live. I mean, I've never watched an episode of the show. I scored them, so I saw them then, but I never watched one broadcast. I've never watched anything I've ever worked on. I've never watched the actual show.
How come?
Because, A, I've already seen it 100 times, and B, it'll always be a disappointment because the music's always too low. So I don't know. I can't explain it. I'd be very nervous about it. Even when I've gone to see films where my wife and I have had songs in them, all I can do is think about that moment when the song's going to play, and I go into tunnel vision, and then it wrecks the whole experience for me. So, but I don't watch much television, anyways.
All right. Now, I made a joke about this in my last interview. So people, like I said, we keep referring to the last interview. Remember, you did the SPD song, and I told you at the very end it sounds like Power Rangers STDs.
Yeah, it sure does.
Was that like done on purpose, or
a slip of the tongue there?
What was it, like done on purpose, or did it just slip out by accident?
I think I was. It's one of those things where when you're stacking tracks, they start to sound like other things. So I think maybe in a few of the takes, I didn't quite hit the P because I was getting tired, and I realized it sounded like STD. I can't say it was fully intentional, but it might have been. I'm not sure. I don't know what was going through my head at that moment.
I don't know, Bob. It's pretty funny.
I'm not confessing to anything.
All right. Well, moving on to the other chapter. How about your high school years? Did you enjoy high school? Did you hate high school?
I loved high school because all the teachers knew that all I wanted to do was play piano. So I was on sound crew and had keys to the school. So not so much in now high school out here back then was 3 years, not 4. So in 10th grade, not so much, and I did fine in all my classes. By 11th grade, I pretty much was sitting in that auditorium playing piano as much as I could. By 12th grade, some classes I didn't go to for 5-6 weeks at a time, and they knew exactly where I was. And then they would give me a test. I'd pass the test. I'd pass the class. I didn't care. And they didn't care. But this is LA City schools a long time ago, before all these rules and all this, things were a lot looser back then. So I didn't love it, but I certainly didn't hate it. But I don't go, wow, gee, that was the best time of my life. I don't have that good a feeling about it, because there was also a lot of bad stuff going on all the time.
Well, you bring up a good point about education, and actually I kind of mentioned school, but you bring up a good point as well. You look at when you went to school, there was no shootings, there was no,
There was a couple beatings. People got beat up, but there was no guns. There might have been some knives, But back then, if somebody used a knife, you know, they immediately were going to, let's say they were 15 or 16, they're definitely going to go to juvenile hall for 3 or 4 years. Where now, I think you can almost shoot somebody and they'll go like, well, it's bad that you did that, but it's crazy now.
I think you look through the past years, people were tough, when, not saying you're old or anything, but saying when you were growing up, people were not so sensitive, they were tough, and in the 80s and 90s they're still tough. But this generation, everyone's acting like a bunch of pussies. You can't say this, you can't do that.
Oh, it's terrible. And I fully expect, it's going to be interesting with my son. He's in 4th grade, and I already can't do his homework because he goes to a real school. We're in a much better district, and it's a wonderful school. So he's already taking some classes that were more complicated than I took in high school. And almost all the kids are nice, but God help the family of anybody who would ever bully my kid, because I won't waste my time with the kid. I'll start with the parents. And I think, that's what has to happen. I'm not talking about being violent. I'm talking about just meeting with the parents and laying out what they're going to do to change their kid if he's bullying my kid. And I'll give him a reasonable amount of time, like in the evening.
Yeah, I got a couple of funny stories.
I am not PC, and the school is plenty happy already that I don't go to the social functions. I'm the nutty, crazy artist. So they've thought that of my wife too. We're the weirdos.
You gotta think
that's life.
Yeah, I agree with you. You gotta think this is funny. A lot of people, my parents say I get off lucky as my parents now because they're mellow. My dad, back in the day, my oldest brother got into an argument. He got beat up. And my dad went over to his mother's house, the kid's house, and he said, your son is beating up my son. I want you to tell him to knock it off, or blah, 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 blah. And she said, kids are gotta be kids, and she went to slam the door in my dad's face. And before the door slammed, my dad stuck his foot in the door. She's like, I'm calling the cops. That's fine, you'd be dead before they come.
Yeah.
My dad didn't take shit from people, and I
would do the same thing, but I'd put my foot in the door, she'd slam the door, I'd fall down screaming, call 911, get the paramedics, and launch a lawsuit and file assault charges.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah, it would work too, because not saying that what your dad did was wrong, but I mean, you've got to work this system. This system is just a mess. So, but I don't think, maybe it won't happen with my kid. Maybe he won't have any problems. Who knows?
Now, keeping on the subject, schools, do you think it would be an issue, for the longest time, how different was the school that you went to? I would tell you the difference the school I went to. Did you go to a public school? Was it
a public. Yeah, we grew up, we were poor, so there was no option. It was going to be public school or nothing, period.
Well, I went to a public school too, but the difference was the school I went to was more of even though it did have a presence as a wink-wink public school, it was really more like a rich, snobby country club where you basically, if you had money, you can pass the class, and most of the cars in the parking lot belong to the students, and if you had money, you can do whatever you want. Or if you were a scumbag or a degenerate, they just go let you do anything. But if you had a learning disability, they took a dump on you.
So like the real world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sad, but that's how it works. If you got money, you're going to walk away. If you don't, you're not. If you're weak, people will stomp on you.
Sad. No, I agree with you. But I didn't mean to interrupt if you were going to say something.
Oh no, there was nothing else. What I'm saying, it sounds like your school was just a sad dose of reality.
It was. And for a perfect example, I was promised my freshman year, I was taken in office with my dad, saying, well, we understand your kid has a learning disability. Well, we promise you after the 4 years, he's got to get a hard-word education. He's got to learn how to do this and do that, be a functional person in society. And that was all bullshit. He just pushed me along through the 4 years, and they said, enjoy retail for the rest of your life, because that's all you're going to amount to.
Yeah. It's okay. That's what, so you do more and you prove them wrong. Success is the best revenge. Every music teacher I had, I was always asked to leave. And up to college, when the guy said, the music theory teacher there said, and I hold no animosity towards these people. I actually was happy. It was kind of a compliment. But I remember he goes, the music thing, Wasserman, you should probably, make sure you have something else to do. I don't see much happening for you with this. And I went, well, okay. We'll see. It's not like I went, no, I'm, not like a movie where, no, it's burning inside me and I'm going to be famous. I just went, well, I just don't do it your way.
Yeah,
you never know.
I had a music teacher, and my school was so stupid. They tried chorus. I hated singing. I do sing sometimes, but I don't like singing in public. And she's like, oh, that's not good for you. Let's try music class. And they're like, what's this note? What's that note? And I never used to get the notes down. And I was like, how is this going to help me in real life? And then we used to go sit in class and watch Fantasia, and we used to watch, Fantasia and music and lyrics. And it's like, okay, just great movies. Oh, especially one movie, West Side Story. I hated that movie.
Yeah.
And we used to watch it all the time. And it's like, what is this about learning music? I get it. It's a bunch of white people beating each other up, and it's kind of like
with fancy dance moves and well-lit sets and polite graffiti. It's pretty funny. I mean, it's good. It's good writing. It's catchy. I've seen it like once, and I don't know. I'm not a musical person. The few that I've seen, my wife has had to drag me to. I'm like, please don't make me go. I'm not into them.
But it is.
I saw something in Vegas. A whole group of us from Hot in Cleveland went, and I saw something, and it was where they did a bunch of Journey songs. And all I could think of the whole time, and no disrespect to the actors or singers, and the band was great, but the entire time I was just thinking, like, I can't believe I left my fucking earplugs in the hotel room. That's the only thing, because if I could have stuffed them in and dropped it, like 28 dB in my ears, I would have been more comfortable. I was not happy. Other than that, the rest, I'm just like, is it almost over? It's been 20 minutes. How much longer does this go? I'm not into it.
It sounds like nails on a chalkboard.
That was terrible. Long hour and a half.
Oh,
most concerts, I've been to have been great because the smartest artists know exactly how long to go and stop.
You mentioned that you and your wife started a band. How did that come about?
We were introduced by a guy who was at Saban who thought that we should meet. And so for the first year, it was strictly a working relationship, and then we ended up in a relationship. And then we wrote stuff and, played out live all the time, tried to get deals. It was right around the time when Nirvana was happening, but it was still great when the record companies would come out and they go, look, just so you understand, there will never, ever, ever be solo female artists that will be successful. They will either be possibly backed by a full band, but it's not going to happen. It happened maybe for a moment in the 50s. There were a few solo females. They go, it's never going to happen. And it's been great over the years. I wish I could call them all in the room and go, so this Rihanna, Britney, and wow, good call on that. They also said singer-songwriters will never be huge. It'd be great to go, yeah, that hasn't worked out for, a lot of guys and gals. And so anyways, we fought an uphill battle, and then when MP3s became popular, I uploaded some stuff, and we had so many downloads that I remember CNN called and did a story on us, then Time Magazine called and did a story on us, and all the news organizations were coming to us. And then we did some Lilith Fair shows and discovered we had a huge following because we'd had this song in a movie called Great Expectations with Gwyneth Paltrow. And when I saw that all these people showed up to see us, I went, we should do a CD. So I'm at a sequence there. We get the one song cut on the movie. We do Lilith Fair. I see the audience. We release a CD. I upload MP3s. When we become the biggest thing online overnight. And so then we got a record deal out of it. And we had a great 2-year adventure with that. And then we terminated the deal just before, after they said they wanted to do another CD with us, but we decided to terminate the deal because it was just a flawed organization. And it was a perfect time for us to exit.
All right. Well, wrapping up the talk show, do you have any funny subjects or stories you would like to share before you go, or have anything you want to say to your fans?
Nothing really funny. Oh, a lot of people are going to be wondering about, I guess last week or this week, there's been an announcement of this Power Rangers movie with Lionsgate.
Right.
And they're going to do the original series, which is impossible to believe. And now I see on my IMDb page, it's come up that I'm doing the score. I'm not doing the score. I'm not doing anything on the series, and no, I'm not contacting Saban, and I'm not looking for work. And no, what I mean is they have it covered. Lionsgate will do the film. I can't imagine it will be anywhere close in any way, shape, or form to how the original series was, and it'll probably be great to hear Justin Bieber's version of the Power Ranger, the original theme.
That's terrible.
Because I just know how these organizations go. They go, no, we want to stay absolutely to the original. So let's get who's like current rock. Let's get Rihanna, and let's get Bruno Mars to sing the theme. I think that'll sound a lot like the original. And and if it's rock, it won't be a rock band. It'll be a composer doing a rock score.
Now,
and I'm sure the effects will be all, current. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's fine. It's funny you say current rock scores. Supposing, I don't know if this is true or not, but you gave a guy in your endorsement, he redid all the Power Rangers songs, and he said that you were a big fan of it.
Well, there's a couple of them that have done some pretty great remakes.
He was the guy who looked like Chris Angel, was a wrong Facebook guy.
Yeah, I think he did some stuff. Remember, over 100,000 emails since '92, and still a couple every day asking about what I'm doing or something about it. So, but I know there's only been a few, so it definitely rings a bell. But I've also probably written 14 hours of music for a series since. So for me, it's only what's in front of me. I'm amazed I can remember what I was eating. You know, I don't even remember that much about scoring the shows back then. It happens now. I'll be sitting, they'll go, remember last season at Hot in Cleveland, the one with the gals that did this, and you had this part of music? And I'm like, it's not that I'm stupid, it's just there's so much to always do, I kind of forget. But if I told him, if I did endorse it and say it was great, I mean, I don't just throw that out there, so it must be. And now he's going to be all upset that I don't remember. Sorry.
Well, do you have anything you want to finish the video with and to your fans out there?
No, just thanks to everybody, and I can't believe coming up now on, for me, 22 years since in September it'll be 22 years since I think I wrote that theme, and it's just amazing that it goes on and on and on and on. It'll be very weird in 40 years if people are still talking about it to me. That'll be kind of strange. That'll be a long time. But it's great. I feel like William Shatner sometimes, who did 3 years of Star Trek and and is bombarded daily by it. But, you know, obviously on a much higher level.